But before we move on, let's go to our phone lines. Joe Never Fails hanging on. What's up, Joe?
What's up, dudes?
What's happening, man?
Hey, what's up?
What's up, everybody?
Thanks for calling in. We have been.
You're probably super depressed, right?
Yeah, we've been sounding our opinions here. Joe, you tend to be a bit of a counterbalance towards our pessimism. How are you feeling about FF14 since the producer live letter 35?
I'm really excited about Stormblood in general. It's crazy because we've talked. I've called in several times, and it's always like anticipation for what, and then discussion of what comes out. And a lot of the stuff that we've talked about over the months and over the years, like, usually comes into to play. For me personally, like Stormblood, it's going to be exciting, and like the way my brain works and the way that I think about it, I'd love to. You guys have been talking about so many great things right now. It's just absolutely fantastic. It's just like, it's very difficult to frame your mind around everything that they've announced to us at this point, because it's only a tease. It's not the actual implementation of how it's going to work. Right. Mm-hmm. So like, we can't really digest exactly how things are going to work. It's all hype at this point, and then theory crafting and people jerking themselves off on Reddit and things like that.
Yeah.
So,
it's mostly reaction at this point until anyone gets hands-on and is able to tell us about it.
Yeah, so it's anticipation at this point. But
right.
the biggest two things my brain thinks about when I consider Stormblood is I try to wrap my brain around the business aspect of what Square Enix is trying to accomplish, and then I try to wrap my brain around the community aspect of what they're trying to accomplish, and that's the balance of what a successful MMO has to do. So they have to worry. They have to worry so much about they have to worry so much about making the bottom dollar and increasing to grow the business, and then they got to think about exactly what they're really going to give us. So
okay, but as a fan though, as someone who pays every month for this game, I don't think you have to give them that benefit of the doubt. I think that's actually giving them way too much benefit of the doubt. Like you're kind of letting them off easy, because these. I mean, yeah, I understand that they've got to balance business decisions. But there's been 100 reasons that I've laid out why this is a bad long-term business decision. Because all of their other long-term business decisions that has favored their short-term games, or the people, the new players, or the people who are not as invested in this game long-term, where have the dividends been? Like, where have they had gains in terms of subscription numbers, in terms of engagement? I've just seen it all fall apart during 3.0.
The biggest thing that's happening right now is, like, I'm going to debate this, because I honestly don't think that is it's an opinion situation right now, which is tough, because we've seen a big increase. We saw an increase at Heavensward, and then we saw a drop off. And as of right now, it's all press. So they're doing media tour, they're doing sponsored broadcasts, and I'll be honest with you. There's no more hype in any game in the MMO market right now than with Stormblood.
No,
and that is there isn't, and that's the truth. Mm. That's the absolute truth. If you want to talk about Ashes of fucking Creation, whatever the hell that game is, I haven't heard a word about it. I haven't heard about Legends of Aria, whatever the freaking Ultima Online next video game is, and whatever it is. Revelations is more tits and ass and whatever the hell. So I'll be honest with you guys. Like, when Lyric decides to play a video game, when ItMeJP, and I've been telling you guys about this for months. I've talked about it for months. I talked about it about the current demographic of current Final Fantasy broadcasters, because they're paying bigger streamers to support their game.
Yeah, fuck them. Fuck Lyric, fuck JP, fuck them both.
I'll be honest.
Those fucking hangers on, they're getting a paycheck. That's the only reason.
Of course,
the only reason that they're sitting and interacting with any one of you FF14 players is because they're getting a fucking paycheck out of it. And fuck.
That's the truth. That's the truth, and that's where I come from. That's where I come from, because I honestly feel like it's fucking bullshit. But at the end of the day, when Lyric plays a video game, people buy a video game. When bigger broadcasters play a video game, bigger people play the video game, and more people play the video game.
Bullshit.
Now, listen. Listen, having said that, this is the truth of what happens. The same thing that happens to Twitch viewers is the same thing that's going to happen to Final Fantasy 14 viewers and Final Fantasy 14 players. They're going to come in because Lyric's playing. They're going to come in because bigger broadcasters are playing. And then they're going to realize that these guys have no fucking clue what they're talking about.
Yep.
And they have no fucking clue how to play the game. And they're going to find a family in Limit Break Radio. And they're going to find a family at other people's broadcasts. That's the bottom line. That's literally how Twitch works. People come in, watch Co-Carnage, watch fucking Markiplier. They watch fucking PewDiePie. They watch all these guys. And then they realize, like, hey, this is getting old.
You know what?
Like,
I think
people will find their way.
You know what, Joe? I don't think I can disagree.
I love the optimism.
I'm being honest. Like, it's going to happen. It's a numbers game, and Square Enix is playing the numbers game. And when it comes down to what they're doing, systemically changing the video game, they're doing what many other video games are not doing right now. Where new expansion, you got a new class, new area, new story, new raids, but the game is systemically the exact same. Final Fantasy 14 has, in the development of what the game is, they're giving us a new video game to play with these new battle system changes. And they're catering the understanding of these systems and the understanding and the way that people view the system to a more casual player. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not necessarily a bad thing. And I agree with you guys 100%. Like, a bad player is not going to be fucking bad whether they see their blood in a gauge or whether they see their blood in a freaking dot on the bar. That's the bottom line. Is the bad player is going to be fucking bad no matter what. And I will continue to preach this. There's, from my understanding, there's players that want to be better and players that just care about fucking getting shit. And I don't like it when video games develop content for players that just want shit. What can we just give you? Here, kick you for free. You play the game for 20 hours, you get everything that you. But, like, for me, specifically talking about a couple things you guys said earlier, like the skill gate that they stopped this video game's progression around fucking Titan Hard. I loved that because you couldn't avoid it, man. You had to learn the content to get past that point in the game. If you wanted your relic weapon, you had to kill it. So you had to beat it.
Yeah.
It made the player base better.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And we all rose to that challenge because we all knew that we had to get through it and that we had to help other people get through it if we were all going to get to the other side of this thing. And then you know what happened? We got the fucking Steps of Faith nerf and all of those goddamn terrible players that whine to the fucking forums and blow Yoshi P again and again and just sing his fucking praises. Get to go out, they got to have their way. Like they
have their cake and eat it.
They figured out, okay, Square Enix is going to acquiesce to our demands. And anyone who had any kind of long-term investment in this game saw that and went, this is bad. Because if Square Enix acquiesces to something it's as simple as Steps of Faith, it means that we have moved from a philosophical direction of this game away from what was driving it in the early days of 2.0 and A Realm Reborn and what has been something that MMO players have gravitated towards for a long time and shifted that philosophy towards, we have to try to make our product as appealing for new players as possible. We have to, allow players to play with each other as quickly as possible. And it's this WoW mentality of, people just want to play with their friends and they don't have any other additional investment out of the game than that. And I'm here to tell you that that's bullshit. That's bullshit. And there's another thing, Joe. I want to kind of disagree with you on one aspect, and that is that if Lyric plays a game, people buy that game, and that may be true right now. But I do think that there is a bubble. There is a bubble around Twitch where people will figure out at some point that this shit isn't sustainable. That donating to people, donating to people that you like on a stream is really kind of financially, like, unless you have that money to throw away, like, you can't count on that kind of shit. Like, there is going to be a day where people just don't give a shit about what is on Twitch and they move the fuck on. I don't know what's going to end up making that, but there's going to be that point. And the more that we have the shit like sponsored streams where instead of the communities or the player bases best interests at heart, that these fucking game developers continue to just have their bottom line and sponsorships best interest at heart, this is going to be fucked and no one's going to have any fun.
You're right in a lot of ways, and you're right about the fact that, I mean, these sponsored streamers, they only last for certain periods of time, and it increases hype and it doesn't create the quality. But there's a lot more of a viewer base on Twitch in the medium to small broadcasting section than there are in the large broadcasters. So
yeah. No, and I totally agree with that. And for as much as I love Twitch for their community points, okay, look at the way that we as a company are investing where we're spending our time, right? Okay,
yeah.
we do Twitch. We love doing Twitch. We love hanging out with people. We love doing this show over Twitch. But long term, we and just look at Checkpoint as evidence. Long term, I don't think that we're going to be able to make the most sustainable product here, and that's why we went to major media. That's why we went to radio and said we can make this product for you, and you will hopefully be able to give us a longer life at doing this than just
Correct.
Simply Twitch or podcasting can, because that bubble is going to burst. And the same thing's going to happen around 14, where and I think we've already seen it. I think the bubble burst at like midway through Heavensward, man.
This is my thing, is that I will disagree at this point in time, because I'm still really hopeful for Stormblood, because honestly, and from my perspective, I honestly think that Heavensward is going to take over. Stormblood's going to take over the fucking. I'm not even kidding you guys. Like, I think that the amount of hype and the amount of exposure that this game is going to get in the next few weeks, like the next 2 weeks, and the amount of love it's going to get, and the amount of people talking about it will dramatically sway a market of video gamers.
I hope so.
In a way that we haven't seen in Final Fantasy XIV before.
Yeah.
And that's honestly, that's my hope. I hope, because I've been talking about this shit for 3 years, where if Square Enix comes to the plate with wanting to develop better PvP and more raids and make it accessible to more people, they really have a legitimate chance at competing for the number one MMO in the world. In the current business atmosphere for what MMOs are even though they're very successful, they are a dying genre. They are games that are not continuing to grow. The MMO decade is not this decade. So,
and I agree with you. And when you look only at the data, that is the conclusion that you reach. But
correct.
But I want to challenge that, because this is the same shit that people say about radio as a medium. Look at the way that your fall off is happening on your audience under the age of 35. It's like a 90-degree drop off where you go from engagement to fucking nothing. I fully believe in my heart that the reason that happens is because you have a disaffected portion of your audience that is not being met with anything that they recognize when they go to the medium, or they're not being met with the game that they wanted or was promised, and they just end up falling off. It's the exact same thing.
The tough thing is, it's really difficult to compare, and I can't debate you, and I can't argue. It's really difficult to compare radio to an MMO, because it's a medium of information and absorbable information that had its beginnings 50 years ago, 100 years ago.
Right? No. And it's not quite an apples to apples comparison. But what my point is, that you're talking about audience trends, you're talking about audience behavior, and when you see a large drop off, and you're discounting that as like, we can absorb it, or like the thing that radio is being short-sighted about is that age is going to keep creeping up. Soon it's going to be 45 and you see that fall off. Soon it's going to be 55 and you see that fall off. What are you going to do when it gets to that point? And they're like, well, they have all types of short-term answers, but they don't have any long-term answers. Well, and I'm saying that Square Enix is doing the same thing, that they have a lot of short-term answers, but they have nothing in the bag for long-term.
Well, that's not true, I don't think, at all, because if you look at the way that they're literally fundamentally changing right now to be a lot more conducive to a new player experience, that is conducive to long term. And that's literally how they're following WoW in this. Like, we've talked about this for months. They're copying exactly what larger MMOs have done to allow for long-term growth and to allow for a new player base that has zero understanding of what Final Fantasy XIV is and just knows it's a video game and just knows it's an MMO, to come off the rip. If they want to invest even more money, they can immediately catch up, which is by itself an unbelievably untapped revenue stream that Final Fantasy is going to bank on.
Hey, hang on.
They are literally going to make millions of dollars on the ocean by itself. And that's another argument in another direction. But
now hang on.
The long-term
you said,
changes. Go ahead.
You said that World of War. I'm sorry. That other games have done this. Okay. And the only thing that I have to say to that is World of Warcraft was the only one to be able to do this successfully and long term. Every other game that has made concessions on the way that you advance your character has also made a negative concession where they say, where at the same time they're saying, well, we're also going to take it free to play. Okay,
I disagree. I disagree because
who has done that? Who has been able to?
I'll use Final Fantasy
11
and run out 11 straight up. You can go grab 7 companions and level your way through the desert by yourself when you needed 5 other teammates to go do it in the past. Is that not a viable way for people to continue to progress?
You're still having to play. You're still having to play the fucking game, though. You're still like, that's the thing. Even if they're giving you companions, you're still having to play the game. You're still having to sit through the fucking cutscenes. You're not buying an item to fast forward you pass through all that shit. And they stopped charging a monthly fee. They stopped charging a subscription when they did that.
No, but you can't play the game. You can't really play the game.
They have both models. They have a free-to-play and a subscription model, and you don't get shit in the free-to-play one.
It's almost the exact same thing that Final Fantasy 14 does. They just don't give you the same amount of content in Final Fantasy 14 and Star Wars: The Old Republic. Like,
guess where we're headed, guys? Free to play.
I think it's
free to play territory, guys. Woo!
Listen, that's
feels
not true.
Great, doesn't it?
That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
If 11's not free to play, 14 won't be free to play.
Really?
He told us ourselves like he'd rather shut the game down than let it go free to play.
No pay. He also said no pay to win. And see how that fucking went.
Joe, that's also not Yoshi P's decision.
Leveling isn't pay to win. Leveling isn't pay to win, though. I don't understand this. How is a jump
pay to win is when you pay for something you can't get otherwise. Like you pay for the best gear when you can't get it in the game.
Yeah, pay to win is if I buy the 275 rip for $50. Like that's the truth. It's not pay to win.
Joe, that's where we're headed. That's where that is the logical conclusion for all of these concessions. It is.
It's a dramatic conclusion.
Oh, come on, man. And the thing is that when they put those 270 weapons in the cash app, you're going to be like, well, it's a business decision.
They're not going to do that.
Oh, they are. They are.
No, they won't.
Yeah, they will. Oh, they fucking will. Don't lie. Do not lie to yourself. If they're going to give you a fast forward button on everything else, you don't think that they're going to also be like, hey, if you want to buy the animal weapons that you didn't get, that you decided to skip past,
there's zero chance. There's zero chance.
Fuck that.
I'll make you a bet live right now. I'll make you $100 bet.
Fuck it, dude. I'm telling you, at some point, that is the logical conclusion to where this philosophy leads. That is the logical conclusion.
Outside of all that other stuff, like it's the coolest thing about this right now is that Square Enix has given us just enough information so there can be a dialogue. There can be a dialogue like this, like people draw their conclusions and it's all hype between now and Stormblood, and none of us are really going to know exactly what's going to happen in between now and when we get a chance to put our hands on the game. The things that I will talk about is, yes, I am excited. I am incredibly excited about Stormblood. I think the new classes are going to be fun to play. I don't know whether any of them are going to like break the mold or anything like that, and that's just for time to tell. I will say, even though I am particularly upset about, and this is something that I do agree with you guys on 100%, I'm upset about the way they dumb down PvP. And this is something that's really big. I'm upset about the way they dumb down PvP for somebody that's done a lot into this PvP community.
And that is emblematic. That is emblematic of every fucking piece of decision making that's coming out of Square Enix.
It's still not problematic.
It is.
Stop talking for a second.
I didn't say emblematic.
I read the PvP changes and I was like, okay, this actually might make PvP fun for me. Maybe I'll start it.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So for me personally, for somebody that's worked really hard in doing my best to expose PvP and get more people excited about PvP and the current systems that they have,
it undercuts you
because it does undercut me. And for anybody who wants to, talk about how good I am at PvP, it's regardless. It doesn't matter whatsoever. The bottom line is I've been broadcasting PvP and I've been talking about PvP for 3 years in this game, and all of the effort and the time that I've put into getting my gear and learning and teaching people,
it's all out the window.
It's all out the window. However, that doesn't mean it's not a good thing.
I was gonna say, it's really getting more people interested and involved a bad thing.
Exactly. So
if this is what they're gonna do every fucking expansion cycle, which evidence shows that it is, then how can you how can you expect people to invest themselves long term like you did if the clock is being reset every 2 years?
All I can say is this: from what we've seen from this video game, Square Enix engaging the majority of the community and catering content, catering the future development of this video game to what the needs of the community are to an extent. When this game comes out, there will be a huge feedback period, and I'm sure that they will make adjustments from here for the future. We're going to see changes. But
they are catering this game to the people who have not been paying the monthly subs, the people who have not invested the time, the money, or the effort to go out to things like FanFest. They're investing where they see the value, and this is the part that pisses me off, where they see the value is in the gains to be made in other people who have not been floating the cost of this game already. And and I'm not saying that that's a bad thing. You need to do that. That's a business decision that's necessary. But they're doing it at the expense of your veteran player base, and that is the thing that I have a problem with.
Do you know why? This is the reason why. So if you talk about the veteran player base,
because the veteran player base is gone already. You lost them at Gordius.
Correct. The veteran player base of this video game is going to want to come back regardless of what they put out. The veteran player base of this video game is so much of a smaller percentage of what the actual income and the revenue that this video game makes from a business standpoint. Literally, and this is as much fact as you can possibly break it down to from a business perspective. They literally say, we don't fucking care. We're not going to continue to develop content for the veteran players. We're going to continue to create content towards the new casuals.
And that's where you get the PvP decisions and all of the rest of the stupid bullshit that's coming along with Stormblood.
It's sustainable in the short run, but is that really sustainable in the long run?
It is not.
If you're consistently catering towards new players, eventually those new players become veteran players.
Yes.
And then they're still catering to the new players.
Changes,
so then those veteran players quit.
It doesn't change though, Joe. It's been the same shit. They've been continually trying to cater to new players, which is where we get shit like Lords of Verminion. I can't even sit here, dude. I can't even sit here and take that line of logic seriously, where it's like a trickle down effect. Like, oh, you'll have new players that end up becoming veterans. Well, no, not if you continue to develop only content for your new players.
Yeah, those new players who become veterans will then quit. So I don't know how sustainable it is if they're consistently bringing in new players but not keeping them. In the long run, you're not going to have any players.
They've been doing it for 4 years, and it's still a game. So
it is
you guys are still playing.
It is not.
I'm still
There's
playing.
nowhere near as many players as there was at AIRR or even at Heaven's Word. Like
it's honestly like it's a 20 to 30% drop.
No, it's not. No. I don't believe it.
Where are your statistics on the actual amount of
where are yours? What are yours, man? It's all anecdotal.
The maximum amount of subs that this game has had is between 700 and 800,000 maximum concurrent active subs.
It's all anecdotal. We don't get any information on subs, the number of current subs, or anything like that from Square Enix. So all of this is speculation, straight up.
There is first party, but this game is bigger. This game is bigger if you compare it to everybody else. If you compare. The reason why I go off of this is because people say that Star Wars: The Old Republic is dead, and I did the investigation. I went out and I did the research, and the Final Fantasy XIV is bigger than Star Wars: The Old Republic in terms of active concurrent subs, and there's 500,000 active concurrent subs as of December 2016. So this game has more than 500,000 active concurrent subs. That's a 20% drop off. That is between a 20 and 30% drop off from the beginning of Heaven's Word to where we're right now. And obviously 500,000 active concurrent subs plus the amount of people that spend money on Fantasia potions and buy up all the Odin and everything like that continue to buy the game. This game is doing very well, and it is literally no chance of dying. It is no chance of dying at this current point in time. And if you look at a smaller video game, that's Star Wars: The Old Republic. Star Wars: The Old Republic is the second most profitable EA IP in the world. Outside of, I forget what the first one is. And that's an MMO. And that can be looked up and Googled if you want to look at that. Regardless of the amount of people that we know, subbed or not, this game is going to continue to make money. So the point is, getting new people is going to help the business. Old people will come back. People who failed in Alexander 1, 2, and 3.
They'll come back and then leave again.
That's exactly.
But this is the thing.
Nika understands. Nika gets it.
And that's okay. There's a very small percentage. 20 to 40,000 people cleared all of the raids.
Where are you getting these numbers, Joe?
A12S. How many people have cleared A12S?
There were some census numbers.
There's a census every year. That's it. Those are the only numbers that you can compare one against another.
They're first-party Googleable numbers. Like, you can Google them.
Square Enix doesn't.
40,000 people. Yes, it's a census. So
they did tell us how many people cleared the raids. That was one of the stats.
if you look at this stuff, like, they're clearly not going to care about catering as much content to 40,000.
Did we?
So continuing through that, like, they're going to continue to make this game accessible to new people, and what's good for new people is good for the video game. I'm telling you flat out, we're going to see an incredible rise in subs.
Not on day one. A fucking 4-year-old game.
Subs stick around once they hit 60, once they get to end game stuff. How many of those subs? Yeah, we're going to see. Obviously, at a new expansion, we're going to see a huge rise of subs. But how many are going to stick around past 6 months? How many?
I don't know. How many people are going to spend $80 to get a level 60 character off the rip, though? Who cares? Because they already spent $80. Whether they stick for 15 months or not, that's so amazing for business from Square Enix's standpoint. Well, they're already making money. They're prepping themselves. $60 for an expansion plus $25. That keeps them afloat for how long? How many people can they engage? It's the sales aspect. It's the business aspect. They can continue to survive for another 2 years, maybe off the first 2 months.
Okay, but this is the same fucking justification that they use to introduce a fucking a cash shop into the game. Everyone reviled that choice when they decided that they were going to do that. And again, this has just been small concessions as we continue to go on. And it's fucking horseshit, man. Like, okay, fine. If you want to say that that's just good business, fine. The cash shop was just good business too. And you know what I mean? Like, how many concessions as a fucking community do we put up with before we go, you're taking this game that we all really loved and you're turning it into World of Warcraft?
This is the biggest thing, is regardless of everything that I've said, the reason why there's a fundamental difference in our arguments is because this is a community-based place, and if I'm going to frame any of my thoughts around the community aspect,
it's not. It's business.
No, I'm saying I'm not the game. I'm talking about your extreme. I'm talking about this podcast. I'm talking about this broadcast right now. When I talk about, and if I am to frame any of my thoughts around the community aspect, I have to agree with every single one of you guys on it, because it is unfortunate and it's sad and it's frustrating to know that I've been subscribed to this game for 3 years and that the majority of content is not going to be catered to the way that I play the game.
Square Enix
is something that I do agree with you guys on.
Square Enix is pissing on our heads and telling us that it's raining. That's what they're.
I mean, like, it's EA. How often do we do we criticize EA for being cash grabbing? You're right, Joe. You're right. Everything they're doing from a business standpoint is great. But as a consumer, what this does to me is I don't feel like this company values me as a person. Which, okay, fine.
They don't. They don't.
Okay.
They don't.
All right. Then we can agree that what they're doing is. All right. Okay.
So why would we want to play a game that doesn't value us as people?
Exactly.
I don't want to play a game like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, the point is, like, do you want to have a game where you sub for 1 month, maybe 2 months, every patch cycle, and then tune out? Like, that's not the kind of game that we want to have, and that's why we're saying
it hurts. It hurts my heart. It hurts my heart in two different ways. I'll make another analogy. It does suck, and I'll speak specifically from my perspective right now. So for me, like, from somebody that literally spent $3,000 to travel in the year of 2015 and 2016 to attend every single Square Enix point of contact at every Penny Arcade Expo, at E3, at Final Fantasy 15 Uncovered. I came out of pocket to make sure that I was visible and promoting Final Fantasy 14 in every single way I possibly could. I was invited out to Final Fantasy 14 Fan Fest Las Vegas to announce the PvP tournament, and for the consideration for the media tour for Final Fantasy 14, I never got an email, I never got a message, and all my points of inquiry have been ignored. So for me personally, like, I see where it's going, and it hurts me. Yeah. It hurts my heart, and it honestly makes me want to play other games.
Joe,
it makes me want to go out and play other games.
Yoshi wants you to play other games.
And Joe, this is the thing, is that we experienced the exact same fucking thing when this was a Final Fantasy 11 show.
You and I are not so different.
Right.
That's where I agree with you guys 100%. So for me, I know that it's a sour feeling. It's somewhat it is like, it's like looking at the world through rose-colored glasses, but I'm still going to remain hopeful, because I think this video game has the potential to explode. And if it does, I know that we're going to see a lot more content in the future. So for me, like, all this new stuff catering to the casuals, catering to new players, it's going to be good. It's still not going to make them better. I'm still going to be a hardcore PvE and still play PvP at a higher level. So I'm still going to keep doing my thing.
I can tell you, though, there's a lot of veteran players like you, like us, who are playing because we see the potential in the game. And I think that Stormblood, I think that Stormblood has that this is their make or break, honestly. Like we're all like, oh, heavens, word, they need to change it, and they didn't. The raid, I mean, they even made it with the normal mode, but even still, they made the raid cycle was the same bullshit of the 8-man, 24-man, 8-man, 24-man bullshit. And it seems like it's going to be more of the same. Now, maybe the battle changes will be enough to make it feel new and fun for us. Who knows? We don't know that at this point in time, but I think that even though the veteran player base that still plays is very small, and the veteran player base that's going to come back is very small, if Stormblood does not change, we will see a huge falling off despite the big sub increase we will see at launch. I feel like that the reason we're all still here is because we see the potential. Right. The question is, does Square Enix see the potential, and will they act on it? And if that's the case, do they give a shit about any of their players beyond the people who are subbing day one? And my point has, and I totally agree with that assessment, Nika. And my point has been, given the amount of decisions that we know about right now, all signs point to fucking no. All signs point to they don't care about retaining their long-term player base. And again, I think the mistake here is not specifically because I have such an emotional investment in FF14. I think that that's a fundamental business mistake for any MMO that has been out on the market for 4+ years. Sorry. It just is. And whether, like I would say that same shit about EverQuest if they made the same decision. It's just, we don't sit around and talk about the other dumb decisions that MMOs make. When Elder Scrolls, right? Like I thought when Elder Scrolls Online went free to play, that was going to be a really bad decision for them. I've been wrong. Like, dude, I've been wrong tons of times. It actually did show a pretty big and significant short-term turning around for them, and they've been able to make that game into something that people really enjoy playing. And what I see happening here with FF14 is the reverse of that we're sort of whittling this down to, where it'll only appeal to 17 people in the entire world, while trying to appeal to everyone. Because when you try to appeal to everyone, you appeal to no one.
Yes. And when everyone's special, nobody is. And that's right. That's the biggest thing that I wanted to come in and chime in earlier. Shit playing in the background from YouTube. When everybody's special, nobody is. And, everybody's universal and everybody gets a medal for just participation and whatever it is. But the last point I got to make before I run out of here, I got to go to a barbecue.
Yeah, no problem.
It's all good. I really appreciate the time. The last point I'll try to make is the big turnaround for Elder Scrolls Online was One Tamriel. And One Tamriel was another move exactly like this right here, where they made the game they made every single area in the game sync to your level, and you could play with anybody, anytime, anywhere. And that made it and catered to casual players that weren't locked by area, and they could play with anybody in the game. And it opened up huge amounts of opportunities in terms of the community and accessibility, and that was a big move for them. So I would say, honestly, not the free to play aspect, but the fundamental change in development where they made the game accessible to more people was one of the big things that made Elder Scrolls a difference. I got to run right now. No. Thank you guys, for real. I love you guys so much, and I'm so proud of y'all.
Joe.
I'm so proud of y'all for busting your ass. There's a new community of people that are watching Final Fantasy 14, and the effort and the time that you guys have put into your broadcast and the effort and time that you guys put into your community is going to be paying off huge. I'm so happy to see you guys doing well, and I love you so much.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you so much. And for as much as we may disagree and it may get contentious and we may yell at each other, there is always still love when it comes down to Limit Break Radio and JNF. Make sure that you check him out, twitch.tv/Joe Never Fails. Go over, follow him, subscribe to him. He's doing excellent stream content. Again, twitch.tv/Joe Never Fails. And something that I want